Okay, so we're now on the chapter rational functions. So I've attached a guide. You don't have to read it, but it's just there if you need it. It goes over about rational functions, how they look, how to find the domain of them, the asymptotes, horizontal asymptotes, vertical asymptotes, and just pretty much overall about rational functions in pre-calculus. It's a pretty long guide with examples and all sorts of things. So it even has some exercises there with answers. Okay, so let's just go over a little bit about rational functions before we jump into the exercise on Khan Academy. So rational functions can look something like this, and you can find values by plugging in for x and things like that. So you can see here, if you were to equal that to 0, that would get you x squared is equal to 9. And the square root of x squared means x is equal to plus or minus 3, which you see here as these dashed lines. So x cannot equal 3 or negative 3. These here are called vertical asymptotes. They're vertical lines. And then you can find the horizontal asymptote here, because the top right here cannot equal 0. Check for horizontal asymptotes, compare degree on the top and bottom, and we'll get into that. So remember, x can't equal 0. We'll get more into the horizontal asymptotes, but that's how you can identify the vertical asymptotes, by just looking at the denominator of a rational function and what it cannot equal. So for horizontal asymptotes, it's a little different. If the exponent, so let's say I had 3x to the third over 4x to the fifth. You can see here it's bottom heavy, we call it. So the exponent on top is less than the exponent on the bottom, which means that the horizontal asymptote is the x-axis, which is y is equal to 0, which we've seen here. It is bottom heavy, the asymptote is y is equal to 0. If they are equal, like 3x squared over 3x, or we'll do 3/4 x squared, these are equal, then your asymptote is 3/4. Y equals 3/4, which is your a over b. If the bottom is, if it's top heavy, like 3x to the fifth over 2x squared, this is top heavy. There is no horizontal asymptote. There is an oblique asymptote, and we're not going to get into that. We'll probably get into that when you get more so into calculus. And so that's about horizontal and vertical asymptotes. You can also do domain and range. So the domain can be negative infinity. So we would do parentheses, because that means it could keep going and keep going. It doesn't stop there. All the way to -3. We would do the union, meaning that also what can be included is -3 to 3, and then 3 to positive infinity. So we would also want to do another union. Oops. It kind of looks like a U, so I drew it weird, but it should look like that. 3 to positive infinity. So this is the domain. I mean, these are all the values that x can be. So we want to do parentheses for things that, it doesn't stop here. It can keep going, and we cannot include -3. If we were able to include -3, we would write it with brackets, like -infinity, comma 3, because 3 can be included, but in this case 3 cannot, which is why we would do parentheses. So that's the difference between the parentheses and the brackets. And we're not going to go over holes in the graph. You'll learn more so that at a later time. And so yeah, that's pretty much the introduction to rational functions and how to find domain and range. And so remember, range is the y values, domain is the x values. And we went over vertical and horizontal asymptotes and things like that. So that's pretty much introduction. You can look at the guide and go from there. And then we will start the Khan Academy lesson in the next video.